Welcome to the Strategy and Leadership Podcast, the podcast that brings you practical advice, lessons, and stories from senior leaders and thought leaders from around the world. The Strategy and Leadership Podcast is brought to you by SME Strategy, working with organizations around the world to create and implement their strategic plans. To learn more, visit SMEstrategy.net. And now, your host, Anthony Taylor.
Hey there, folks. Welcome to today's episode of the Strategy and Leadership Podcast. My guest today, John Prothro, who is the president and CEO at Foot Solutions. John, how's it going today?
It's great, man. It's Friday, right? It's Friday, so we're almost there.
You know, I had to tell you, I had no idea it was Friday today, and I was like, oh, man. So I'm glad it's Friday where you're at. I have no idea what day it is here, but awesome. Well, since it's Friday, what has been the high point of your week so far? Either professionally or personally?
My oldest daughter is playing in her championship volleyball tournament on Saturday, so we've been back and forth to the gym and practicing, and we're excited about tomorrow because we're going to take state.
Hey, sweet. Well, good luck to her. Good luck to you. I'm sure it's going to be a big deal, and I appreciate you making time to chat with us today. Chat with me. I suppose everybody else is just listening. So maybe you can just, we'll start off as we kind of tend to start off. Tell me about you. Tell me about your background. How did you become the president and CEO of Foot Solutions? And then I'll just ask you some questions.
Sure. So I have about about a dozen years or so in mergers and acquisitions on the buy and sell side, some co-investing. Just as an intermediary for a while, and then got into business operations about 5 years ago on the executive side in industrial supply, which is a strange place to go, but it was one of our customers that asked me to join their team. And then when I'd done that for a few years, I decided I'd like to raise a fund and buy some companies, just a portfolio of companies, because we'd had some success on the buy side with some co-investment deals that we had done. And so in the middle of raising that fund, it wasn't going to be a large thing, maybe, just lower middle market transactions. I got introduced to the owner of Foot Solutions. Foot Solutions is a foot wellness retailer. It's an expert caring service that, sort of looks like a shoe store, but does a lot more than that. And we do like truly custom orthotics that are done through laser scans and CAD/CAM designs and 3D printing. So I met the owner of Foot Solutions, and the brand was a little bit stale at the time. It's a franchised brand. And I sort of fell in love with the concept, loved the economics of the business, and thought, this is a great idea that just needs to be executed on. So I called my investors and said, look, I'd like to do this one. I'll install myself as the boss, which is the best way to do it. And then let's grow it. So that was 3.5 years ago. We actually closed on it a week prior to the first COVID death in the U.S. So you can imagine owning a franchised brand with retail stores that serve older folks, because a lot of our customer base is folks who are starting to feel foot pain and that sort of thing. So we had to kind of manage through that, but we've done a decent job of managing the ups and downs. And now the market, we're sort of waiting for a normal period of time in the market, but we're doing okay regardless.
Excellent. How many franchise locations do you have around the world?
Well, around the world, there's about 80 locations globally, and we have 18 of them are corporate owned, so the rest are franchised.
Cool. So I'm in Vancouver, Canada. It's where I got my orthotics from, and I am not exactly middle-aged, or like we won't go there.
No, I mean, you're doing preventative medicine, right? You're doing preventative medicine.
Absolutely. And I think, if memory serves, I was in Richmond in the UK, and there's a Foot Solutions there.
Yes, there is. Man, you're really on top of things. Yeah, we've got 2 in the UK and 2 in England and 8 in Ireland.
That's awesome. So check them out. It's not a plug. They're not sponsored. It's just good for your body, good for your back and all that stuff. But John, let me ask, which do you prefer? Do you like being on the higher side of things, the transaction side of things, the orchestrating side of things, or do you prefer, in your experience, being on the operator side of things, the playing around, the tinkering, the really like getting into the weeds?
Yeah, it's a good question. I like to get my hands dirty. I like to do big things. And, I think one of the reasons I made the switch from doing buy and sell side deals into operations was I was sort of tired of telling people what they should do or what I thought they should do, and actually being the guy who had to go and do it, which is a total new ballgame. And you realize real quick what you know and what you don't know. And the more you know, you don't know, if that makes sense. So I made that switch and haven't looked back. I haven't really wanted to be I never was a high flyer anyway. And, never showed up into a meeting with French cuffs on, but I just like being on the operating side.
Yeah, I hear it. So what is your, I call it mantra? What is your approach? What are your guiding principles to leadership? What are your guiding principles to business? And what are some of the things that you're digging into Foot Solutions now and into the future that's going to support that future growth?
That's like 5 questions that are long answers.
I told you we got time here. Why don't you pick one of them? How do you approach leadership, just generally speaking?
Yeah, well, I mean, from a worldview perspective, I'm a Christian, and I try to follow the principles that Jesus taught. And so there's a lot of folks who sort of translate that into business, into servant leadership business. Sometimes that translates really well, sometimes it doesn't. I'm more focused on things having to do with trustworthiness and sincerity. I think having people around you who are very genuine and honest and straightforward, and being able to be a decision maker who is the same way that may or may not make decisions that the staff likes or the person underneath you likes, but they can know that you're listening, you're trusting what they have to say. You're not prideful in your decision making, and you're doing it based on what you feel is right, not necessarily for some ulterior motive. And that really, I think the downfall of a leader is pride. And of course, I've had my bouts with it, but I think the downfall of a person, as a matter of fact, is pride. The minute you start saying you're your own God and you get to make your own decisions, the minute you think there's not something above you, then you're on your way down. So anyway, that's probably more philosophical than you wanted to get, but
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I have my higher power is a little statue of a Dragon Ball character to humble me in my own way. There's something stronger than me, and it's been helpful in my life and the things I've been working on. But so I'll ask maybe a slightly different question then. So you jumped into this company 4 years ago, just shy. You came in, you make decisions based on trust, based on integrity, based on what you think was best. And you really told yourself, hey, I'm tired of telling people what to do, so I'm going to go do it. So if you're willing to share, open to share, what were some of those quick wins? What were some of those things that you did right away as a new CEO of a business to kind of get it on the track that you thought would be valuable? And hopefully that helps our leaders, if they're jumping into new organizations and wanting to make a impactful change.
Yeah, the first thing I would say is defining the brand. I think larger companies have sort of figured out the brand building side and building the brand book and staying on message. But smaller companies haven't necessarily done that exercise because typically it's pretty expensive, especially if you're using an agency to help you build out the brand and that brand book and your messaging. But it's well worth the time and the effort and the money to sit down with your team and with the folks who know how to sort of message something together and package together what you are as a business. And I talk about this a lot. So, if someone's heard me on another podcast, they'll say this guy's repeating himself. But the brand itself, if you're defining your brand, that's one thing. So, okay, well, we know who we are, right? But the best and next step you have to take is, why does that matter to our customer? And that's the step I don't think a lot of people take. They're sort of like, well, we do this. Well, that's great. We sell truly custom orthotics, and we have highly trained experts in the stores. That's great. Now, and some customers might translate that into, okay, those people can help me, but it would be much better if we said, these are the things, this is who we are, and this is how it helps. If you're experiencing foot pain, you're walking along, you need to, and you think you might not be wearing the right shoes. Okay, you need to go to Foot Solutions because we can help you get out of pain. And the whole brand is a solutions oriented brand. So it sort of forces us to talk about what those solutions are that we're offering. So just, the brand starting with who you are and how and why that matters is sort of a step back from just like digging in and going after it. You have to do that first.
And what I hear that, some people, when they hear brand, they think the visual identity. But what I hear is you really went into the purpose of the organization, of the company, and then beyond just the kind of features, like what are the things we do, but really like, why should anybody give a hoot? And, what's in it from their perspective, because I think it's really easy that CEOs, businesses get so enamored with themselves. And I guess that goes back to the pride part. You're so prideful of yourself, you're forgetting about the servant nature of your work. And then you just kind of lose the plot. I don't know if you thought about it that way, but that's kind of how I hear it.
Yeah, and it even goes deeper than that into sort of your core values. So you start thinking about, all right, well, we're going to list some pretty cool things that make us sound very ethical and strong and moral. But again, why does it matter, right? Why does it matter? Why does it matter that one of our core values is sincerity? Well, the staff that works with me here in the corporate office needs to know that goes all the way down to them telling me what I don't want to hear. Mm. And then it goes all the way down to the interaction with the customer. Well, maybe that customer doesn't need a custom orthotic. Maybe they have really nice arches and they could deal with a $120 pair of insoles and not a custom, right? Mm-hmm. So the core values along with the brand really need to translate into actionable and the way you think about even the culture of the company.
Hmm. I don't know how long Foot Solutions been around. Did it over time start forgetting who it was, or was it more of just a need to refocus, realign, and refresh?
Well, all companies go through a life cycle, especially founder-led companies, and this one had been around for 20 years, and I think it had a lot of energy and ideas very early on, and then founders inevitably start to slow down a bit. The owner had some health issues as well. And so I think it's just sort of too easy to take your eye off the ball and let things start to get a little bit more chaotic than under control. And really, if you think about the investment life cycle of a company, you either have an owner or a leader who wants to keep thinking about the future and keep thinking about the future, or you have someone who's like, my future's already set. If I make a decision that helps us 5 years down the road, I may not even be in this seat in 5 years down the road. I may be alive in 5 years. So I'm sort of collecting the cash I can now. I don't need to make any big investments in what we're doing. I mean, the 3D printed orthotics was one of the best moves we made. But, why was the old owner going to spend, $1 million pulling in that technology and learning it and training and travel and license agreements and all? Why? He's not going to do that so that, in 10 years down the road, he sees like an amazing return on that investment. It just doesn't, it's just a part of the life cycle of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, longevity perspective. If you're in it for being 100-year business, we chatted with a guy from DuPont earlier this year. And
I listened to that one. Yeah, I listened to that.
That's awesome. And so, you hear like innovation, but they're trying to be around for, 300, 400 years. And I think that's the difference between, an owner-run company or founder-run company and an entity or organism that kind of grows beyond itself. But we'll pause there. I do want to ask as we, slowly wrap up. You had mentioned the core values, and one of the core values, and the word escapes me right now, but it led to the fact that people can tell you stuff you might not want to hear. So as you were going through the business, what were some of those? I don't know. I call it humbling lessons. What are some of the things that you found out the hard way? What are some, really leadership lessons? You're like, ooh, like this one, this is a good one, but it stings a little bit. Do you have one or two of those? Not necessarily just Foot Solutions related, but you've learned in your career as a leader.
Yeah. And that one was sincerity is the word you're looking for.
Sincerity. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, one of the hard truths I had to learn and hear from somebody was I don't manage upwards very well. I don't know if you've ever heard that terminology, but that goes back to the pride thing. Like, well, um, I tend to sort of run as fast as I can and then turn around to see who's with me, rather than getting buy-in, not just from the folks who have to do what you want to do and have to sort of run and keep up, but also from the people who are above you, who you're reporting to. And so I have been known not to or be weak in the area of talking to the folks above me as if their opinion matters more than mine does. When it actually in reality does. So I've had some issues with that. In fact, this is, I don't want to turn this into a psychology session, but there's plenty of things I could point to that I've learned from people who will say, like, you're messing this up. That was a miss. You need to fix that. And in fact, if people are not saying that to me, then I'm starting to think about letting them go, because I can't stand yes people.
Yeah. So I hear the importance of, I mean, again, like the humbleness, the being able to recognize just what it makes to have a successful team. You need to have the people below you, and then depending on certain cases, the people above you, and then both of those groups of people need to be sincere and tell you, like, not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. Because if you kind of, I don't want to say pander, if you take it easy on people, it doesn't help them. Like, you're actually helping them less by kind of trying to spare their feelings. And of course, don't be mean, but if in the true spirit of supporting and being a servant leader, wherever you are leading up or down, serving people sometimes means delivering uncomfortable truths so that they're actionable and can do something about it. And then you can improve. Yeah. Otherwise, you just have resentment.
I'm a big believer in organizational learning. I don't know if you've read anything on that or studied that at all, but it's a very simple concept, which is you've got a lot of brains in the room. Why not let's use them? Let's listen to what folks have to say and incorporate that, and make sure there's an environment where people will speak up if they see something that's not working, or see a way to improve things. In fact, I have my buyer who sits right outside my office. I heard him talking about our shipping cost, which he doesn't really involve himself. The operations VP involves herself in that. But he was like, hey, we could save money if we did this, this, and this. And of course she's listening, and yeah, that makes sense. There's a whole, because there's that collaboration and that culture of, listening to each other and taking, bouncing ideas off each other and being receptive and sincere. Then you can sort of, you can quantify that in a lot of ways, because you end up making more money and end up having a better company because of it.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like you're building the right culture, you're building the right team, things are moving forward. So that's very exciting. Just as we finish up, what's next for you personally as a leader? What are you taking on now? And then what's next for Foot Solutions that you're very excited about? And then we'll finish up.
Yeah, so we spent about 3 years building the foundation and the scale at the corporate level. We made several acquisitions, and we've got this business to a point now where we can sell franchises. So we've been doing that again starting this year. So we have lots of new franchisees in the pipeline and new that have already signed up. So we're really excited about that, because it's sort of taking the business to the next level. And on top of that, we have done, I mentioned I like to do big, hard things, and we've done all the back end systems changes we needed to do, done all the integration that we needed, not all of it, but we're in the process of doing everything that we need to do to have that sort of foundational structure to really grow the company rapidly and smartly. Because a lot of it, when you're growing very quickly, a lot of it is, especially when you're making acquisitions, you're breaking things and things are falling apart, and people are quitting, or you're running into things you didn't diligence and you wish you had, and we feel real good about where we sit right now in terms of kind of like the team's right, the systems are right, and we've got a real nice model that works from an economics perspective, and a lot of people want to jump on board as franchisees. So I'm excited to see what happens. I don't think the economy is amazing. I think we'll probably still struggle through a lot of economic headwinds, but I think what we've got is something special, and I'll see where it goes.
Excellent. And then for yourself personally?
Well, we've got 4 kids. I'm not having any more kids. We're, I'm kind of here to stay. Somebody asked me on a podcast one time, what would you tell young folks who are trying, very ambitious? And I said, well, you need to move. For the most part, if you want to kind of take those major steps forward in your career, you got to be willing to pick up stakes and move. Right now, this is the longest period of time we've ever lived in one place. In fact, we're building a house that's almost done, and if we have a community, and we've got friends and church and the whole thing, and so I'm just kind of happy about not going anywhere for a while.
Absolutely. Progress is sometimes standing still. So I love that. So awesome, John. Where can people connect with you? If they want to learn more about your franchise system, where can they do that? Where can they just connect and say what's up?
Well, unless you're an IT or software salesperson, you're welcome to find me on LinkedIn and connect. If you are one of those things, I love you and appreciate you, but please don't hit me up. If you want to learn more about Foot Solutions, it's footsolutions.com. Very simply. If you want to learn about franchising, go all the way to the bottom. It's a small link. Click on that. But otherwise, visit your local Foot Solutions that can help you. You got foot pain, that sort of thing. Support those franchisees. They're out there working hard to take care of the community.
Excellent. Awesome, John. Thanks for having a chat. Thanks for your transparency, candor, and just like willingness to be who you are. And it was a really fun conversation. I wish you nothing but the best wherever you are, especially if it's where you are right now.
Thank you, Anthony.
Folks, my guest today, John Prothro, who is the president and CEO at Foot Solutions. One of the things I took away from today is just the ability to lead up successfully, the ability to reflect on one's business to say, hey, are we really clear about what we're doing for people? And then reflecting on oneself to say, hey, am I doing the things that I need to be doing to be a servant leader, to be a supporter, to be a great leader just in general, and a human being and team member at the same time. So, John, thank you again for being here. Folks, this has been the Strategy and Leadership Podcast. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, drop a rating if you like it. Just appreciate you watching, appreciate you listening, appreciate you being here. My name is Anthony Taylor. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Strategy and Leadership Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider giving us a review. We appreciate you listening and following along, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. And as Anthony says, until next time.